the whole thing started, I think I just threw some boards at you, didn't I? I just gave you some different shapes to try.
It definitely started with the shiitakes.
Yeah, you're riding the shiitakes, but then I think I gave you just a one-off.
Yeah, I was asking for like a squash tail.
Yeah, we did a whole batch for Frito, and there was one with the squash tail.
Yeah, and that one felt pretty nice, but just like a little bit too refined. And then I feel like from trying, I don't know whose board, but even just like referencing that plug of a board behind there, like the idea of just taking something that's just like super pluggy that shouldn't go good, and then just like refine, like keeping those, like it's essentially like an 80s shortboard, but then with just super chunky rail, lots of volume, big nose, and then keeping that hip in the tail, and then just like thinning out the tail.
Yeah,
that was kind of like the refinement that I feel like made the difference from that board to this board and made it so much more like performance-y.
Yeah, and on my end it was quite hard for me to make this thing look
It was like
pleasing to the eye. The first couple, I feel like I really struggled to like make it look good, like going off what he was asking for, and then I'd get in there and make it, and I'd have to whittle away at these things to try and like get it somewhat looking how I would perceive a good looking board to be, but yet like trying to keep this thing thick, and like you wanted a pointy nose but to have a really chunky beak. That was so hard.
2 years to get you to make a board that just had a beak in the nose. Every time I'd wait for months thinking I got somewhere with you, and then all of a sudden I'd pick them up and they'd be like refined nose. And I'm like,
it was so hard to get all this foam into a pointy nose and for it to look good without it being like this ugly lump. It just was like, it took a while to like manipulate things and get it somewhat looking right. And even myself, like to ride one, I had to ride what Noah rode to try and feel what he was feeling, and then go and make myself something that would be more my dimensions to try and like get the right thing. And I struggled to make myself the right one, but then finally nailed one, just moving a few things around. And then from I feel like the last 2 batches were pretty good.
Oh, the last 2 batches we finally got it. And then you even had one where I had one that I loved and you still couldn't wrap your head around it. And then you had the one and I was just like, just please try it. I think it's like, it works. And then you wrote it and you texted me and you're like, okay, yeah, I think what I'm saying.
Yeah, and so like my one, it was so hard to figure out like dimension wise what I should be riding, because you were riding them long compared to what a short board would be, and really thick. And I was like, what size am I going to ride in this? And so I kind of started around the same length and kept it real thick, but have worked out I should, because I'm skinnier and taller, like I'm going just a little bit longer and a tiny bit thinner, but keeping it thick. That whole thing about this board is it's got to be thick. So it's like, it surfs up on top of the water more. And then with that hip, it's got like a ton of pivot compared to like what the shiitakes have. And this is what really separates it from the shiitake line, is the thickness and the hip. So it's got the speed of the Twinser, but it's like, it's got that crazy tight pivot. So if you do a cut back, you like bring it back up into the foam ball more than you would on those other boards that have like a longer rail line. So it's got like a spicy little feel to it, where you're up on the water, it's got heaps of pivot and speed instead of as much flow as some of those other boards have, unless you go the longer ones that you've got. The general, like your 510, it's got like zip to it. I'd say it's like
Yeah,
kind of zippy.
so alive. I mean, these ones you can. The idea was just to kind of like have the feeling of just being able to sit on top of the water and be able to kind of like plane through the flat dead spots on a wave, but it not be like crazy alternative to where that thickness is in your way. And I feel like that hip in the tail really allows the board to pivot and have like a break point, so you can like really get up and down a little bit easier.
And I've really focused on keeping the bulk of foam out of the rail up here under your chest and the front third of the board, because if it's too bulky here, you'll get hung up in the lip. And so if it's kind of refined enough here, it keeps it sensitive and free. If it gets too chunky, that's where you're gonna feel it. The back of the board's reasonably thinned out, so it's nice and sensitive on the back part of the board, and you got those hips there. So there's a lot going on right here. And I really noticed when I was surfing these, like if you had your back foot over the hip, you could really like change direction quick. It was like it had a totally different feel than anything else. It comes alive when your back foot's further up.
I do feel like everything is just the foot placement over the fin. It's such like a unique set of fins that I do feel is like this weird quad 20 hybrid. You have like the grip of the quad and the like stability and hold from the quad, but then it has this like loose, free feeling of a 20. But that almost even comes more from when your foot's back.
Yeah.
And you can kind of like redirect the board a little bit quicker. But if you like need to get down the line and like make a big section, you just like come off, you bring your front foot up a little bit more, and you're utilizing like more of the flat part of the board and all this foam that's like under your chest, and it's like less pivoty but more forward drive. So you kind of have like back foot forward, like forward drive, back foot back.
Yeah.
It just like loosens up and pivots. So it's like, it's definitely like not like a one, like you just have one.
Yeah, it's got like sections that you're going to use. So you've got the hip and a sensitive tail. You've got like a straightened out section leading into the hip. So that's locking you when you're on rail. You can lock in, and then coming into the nose, you've still got tons of foam here sitting you up high, but it pulls down rail and keeps it kind of free in a way. And what a lot of people don't realize with like twin and twinser style boards, like if you go thick, it gives you something to leverage against because you don't have the center fin anchoring the tail into the water. So when you remove that, you lose that and freeze the board right up. So by putting all the foam back in and keeping it thick, it actually gives you a lot more to push against and drive off. And that's what Noah, you watch his surfing, he's like really pushing the board hard. And that thickness, it's giving you something to leverage off. So that's like, I would say is the main thing in this board, is that thickness and something to really push against. Whereas if you go other twin style boards, or most other boards are going to be thinned out. And I kind of got proven, my prior theory got proven wrong. I was thinning twins out a lot through the tail, thinking it's got a sink. I needed to bite in to give me control. You kind of almost want the opposite, I've found. And you want it sitting up so you can push hard against it.
They're so loose to begin with.
Yeah. So that's like,
you have all that foam pushing back at you. It's just such like a chattery, sensitive board that the second it's like 6 foot, it just is way too.
And that was like ages ago when we were working on performance twins. I remember I gave you a board and I thinned it out, and we went and surfed like State Park, and I could see through your turns, like you're pushing, but it would kind of start to bog halfway round because there wasn't enough foam holding up through the turn when the waves were like subpar. So if there wasn't the power there and then not enough foam in the board, it just wanted to like sink halfway through. And so That's what this is doing. It's giving you someone that wants to push hard. It's giving them that leverage. And then it suits your style of surf.
Even if you don't surf like that or that hard, the board just sits on top of the water so nice. And if you're like way more back-footed, you can still have that looseness. And then you just bring your front foot forward, and you're like even more on top of the water because the board's flatter to the face of the wave, and you can kind of just glide more using the flatter, chunkier part of the board.
Yeah.
But it took so long to get something of this volume to where I was like, leave the refined shortboards outside, take that old 80s board, let's start like this.
Noah's words were to me, I want a plug, and I don't want it to make me look like I'm riding a shortboard. I'm like, what the fuck am I going to make it? He wants it pluggy.
I do feel like, even this board being like, this is the 510, but when you do go 6'2", 6'3", and above, when you ride boards that are more like the board that we were kind of referencing, the nuance of like that board not like being a good board that like works in terms of like performance, it kind of like those nuances kind of like shift your approach to a wave and kind of like almost like bring a different type of like more like personality out of your type of surfing, or like a different approach of how you have to like surf this board instead of it being this like crazy dialed in performance board. So I wanted something that was more like taking something from like a whole different era that like today people wouldn't say would work, and then just like refining bits of it but still having all that chunky bit under your chest, in the nose, the beak nose, and then just like thinning out the tail. And that's where I was like, just fucking try this and let's just see if it works, because I don't shape boards ever.
So Noah's riding a whole range of these things. These ones here are the 510, and this is what we started with, and that's the main one we've worked on. Recently he's got like a full size break, and he goes from 510 to 6'3". The 6'1" to 6'3" are slightly different in that they have a little bit more of a further forward hip. So because you got extra rail line, the pivot point's further up. You got more board too to shuffle around on, so that's keeping it a little bit further up between your feet, and you're generally standing further forward. The 510s, this is it. Thicker, stubbier, hips further back. And then the 6'3s were totally different. It had the hip further up, narrower tail block, and a full V bottom. And that was designed to be a little bit more cruisy. That's like kind of almost a new take on a shiitake kind of thing. It kind of fits in that realm, but it's different outline, different bottom shape. So
I do think the hip allows it to break that.
Yeah, it's giving you a pivot point, breaking the outline up. So it's going to turn tighter, and the V bottom's going to roll. So it's got a totally different feel. So you've got a full. Basically, there's a range of different boards there. This is the base model. This is the what it's designed around. And this would be, if someone came to me and wanted to ride what you're riding, this is what I would push them towards. And this is going to be the board that is going to work day to day. Like your 6'1's more of like, I would say, is a slightly better wave board for here. I say, like you could ride it every day in Indo, but if you're in California, a slightly shorter one, or you go to your 6'3".
Yeah, I feel like you would want to think that like, oh, the bigger the board, the less maneuverable, like more alternative, but then like, or just like bigger waves, but then it like translates completely well to tiny waves. It's just kind of like a little bit different of approach, but for me, I just feel like simple terms how I was thinking about it is just like the thicker you go, the faster you go, and then the harder you can push. And as you get a bigger board and a bigger board, and with the fin setup, it's like it's not like it's this mid-lengthy type of thing that's like only meant for certain kind of waves. It just gets you into waves quicker. Yeah. It's got the grip from that twin tube feel. Those extra nubs also, I feel like, are just like more fin in the water to like push against, from my understanding of like just more surface area that you can kind of like just rock in more.
Yeah.
And then with that extra foam and then like the thinning out of the tail and then being able to get a different feel out of the board from shifting your foot front and back, it's kind of just like you can look at it as a step up. You can ride it at like a small point break and like ride the front half of the board more. It's pretty good all around.
So he's 5'8", he's riding a 5'10". And you're like, you surf totally different to me. I'm like tall, skinny, upright.
Yeah.
So I ride a 5'10" short ball. I'm 5'11" tall. I'm riding this in 5'11". I'm going 5'11", 18, 7. I go 18 7/8 by 2 7/16. Whereas Noah is riding 5'10", 18 3/4, 2.5. So he's a little bit thicker and shorter. Now I've just stretched mine out, thinned it out a little bit. So I would go for your average guy around the same height as you are tall, or even a tad longer. And you want to ride it about at least an eighth thicker than your standard board.
Definitely don't be afraid to go.
Yeah, you don't want to go thin on this. You want to go thicker than what you normally ride.
And longer, for sure.
And don't be scared to go longer. Don't go shorter than you are tall. You need to keep it at least the same height as you are tall or longer. And definitely don't skip on the thickness. If you have any questions, reach out to us and I'll put you on the right thing. But to get the feel of how this board is designed, you got to go thick. If you go too thin, your rails are going to be too thin because it's designed to be thick in the middle and then pull down in the rail to keep it sensitive. So like if you go undersized, your rail's going to feel too thin. So you got to keep that beefed up and that'll give you the feel of how it's meant to be ridden. Watch the clip of Noah and you'll see how it's meant to be ridden. He utilises his rail and wants to be up on the water and be able to push it hard.
The round tail's pretty cool too. That's a new.
Yeah, so I would. Yeah, the round tail's what I want to be riding. That's what my next one's going to be. I think, for maybe a lighter weight riders too, that would probably help. So it doesn't feel too thick. A round tail's going to make it a little bit more sensitive. But that's my favourite, the looks wise. That was your favourite though, wasn't it?
The round tail?
Yeah,
yeah.
Round tail was
this past year. The round tail 5'11" was definitely, I think, well, they're all good. Every size. It doesn't, I feel like you can get away with riding any size. Normally, there's like a threshold of like, that board's too big for me. But with these, it's just like a matter of like foot placement and understanding like kind of how the fins work and like where to ride the board in like certain parts of the wave, and you can kind of, just because it feels like more foam equals more speed, and then it's more board pushing back at you. Yeah. So kind of any size, but I guess that doesn't help me.
People need to realize it's not like a blading high performance shortboard. It's designed to be thick. It's not to be ridden like a high performance shortboard. It's like this is designed to make you surf different. You can obviously get high performance on it, but it's not a shortboard like a traditional shortboard. This is like, I don't know what you call this. It's our take on a new version of where Noah wants to take his surfing. So if you want to surf,
True.
you
I guess
surf.
that's where we were going.
This is this is where we're taking it. It's like building a board around his surfing and taking it to where he wants to go, not what most people ride. So it really does give you like a whole different flavor on a board. It's not your standard run of the mill shortboard. So don't go thin, go thick.
Took me long enough to put it.
Yeah.